The vaccine dilemma. They said it would save lives. They called it the miracle of science. But behind the promise lies a much deeper story. From questionable and inhuman manufacturing practices to side effects that no one talks about. From multi-billion-dollar profits to mandates that blur the line between medicine and control. Today we dive into the science, the ethics, and the multi-billion-dollar business that vaccines have evolved into. Are vaccines truly protecting us, or are we being injected with something much deeper than medicine? Welcome to the conversation they never wanted you to have. Hi, this is Vasudevan, author of Follow Your Heart, Your Brain is Stupid. Let's jump right into the show, The Vaccine Dilemma. Hi Arun, welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arun Prabhu once again. In this third episode of this series, we are going to cover yet another very interesting topic, the vaccine dilemma. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, I suggest you go and watch it. I will provide the link at the end of this episode. Since this subject is vast, what we decided is to break it up into 2 episodes so that each of the episodes are not too long. And this is the first episode or part 1 of the vaccine dilemma. As I mentioned in the earlier episodes too, please note that the views expressed here are based on scientific evidence which is available in the public domain and personal experiences. Our intent is not to influence your thinking in any way. It is just to create awareness so that you as individuals can take informed decisions regarding your health. With that being said, let's get started.
Sure.
Arun, what is the science behind vaccination? I'm sure some of our viewers would like to know. So what is the principle? How does a vaccine really work with our immune system to protect us? Over to you.
Great question. Actually, it started, I think so, the vaccine development and the invention of vaccination started somewhere around, I think so, 1700 something. And I think so, if I'm not wrong, Edward Jenner and Louis Pasteur. These were the first 2 inventors of vaccination. Basically, the theory was this, that any virus or anything, for that matter, anything which enters into our body. Let's not say name virus as such. It can be bacteria, it can be anything, it can be food. Whatever comes inside our body and in our bloodstream, if the body recognizes it as friendly, it will absorb it. And if it doesn't recognize it, or if it recognizes that there might be some harm due to it, it will expel it either through your vomiting, through passing your stools, or through sweat, anything it will, or through air, it will pass out. So our body is very, very intelligent. Now what happens during certain outbreaks or during certain viruses when they become more prevalent? And let me tell you, the only reason why these virus outbreaks are there, because of, like we have been discussing in our past episodes, any outbreak or any pandemic is not, it's not created. Rather, today it might also be created. We're not talking about that. It is because of mass reduction of immune system. For example, we all remember the pandemic of, I think so, 1920s. There was a pandemic which was what flu? There was some flu which was that, I'm not remembering the right name. Swine flu, I think so. Yes, it was swine flu. And it started in US. Do you know what was the reason? The reason was that was the first World War we faced, 1914 to 1918. And the aftermath of that World War was we had a lot of emotional baggages. The whole world, and especially US. We lost many people. When I say we, means humanity as a civilization, I'm saying, not as India as a thing. So that has a very, very emotional repercussion, and the general immune system went down, and we had that swine flu. but no one went to the the cause of the swine flu. So coming back, the research was being made that how to prevent any virus infection. Now I told you how any viral infection happens. So most of the sciences are not going into that depth. The modern science, I'm saying. What they found and what happens is, whenever there is any virus or any attack on our body, the body retaliates by creating antibodies, which become the defense mechanism, and they fight and they overpower the virus infection, and the virus dies down. So that's the basic layman language of how vaccination works. They have duplicated this system by saying that if we inject a diluted form of that virus into our body mechanism will create antibodies which will fight these viruses, and the body will become healthy. That was the basic fundamental behind vaccination. Now, what happened is, when they did research on these vaccinations, or when Louis Pasteur or Edward Jenner, they were doing this research, and they were doing it on patients. This was basically developed for patients. For example, smallpox was always there, polio was always there, rabies was always there. But our immunity was so strong that the cases were very few. Then suddenly there was an outbreak, I think so in London, I'm not remembering the right place. There was an outbreak of rabies, and Louis Pasteur thought that why shouldn't I do research on this? And he developed the vaccine for rabies, and similarly for smallpox, and similarly for polio. Scientists developed that. Now this was all developed to give strength to the patients. For example, if there is no outbreak, there will be no vaccination. So outbreak, which means treat the patients. And any modern medicine or anything, any medical research is being done on patients. Now, the challenge was this, that there are only few people dying because of rabies, polio, or any other disease. So the research which we do, how do they encash that research? So these medical fraternities, they thought that why don't we say that even if you are not a patient, if you get this vaccination, you will have that immunity to fight that particular disease. Now, let me give you a good analogy on that, which will make you understand that why vaccination is not at all required, number one, and how it actually weakens us. Till 5th standard, we have a subject called science. Everybody has got a subject called science. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now the science has got physics, chemistry, biology. But all these three subjects are in one subject. I think so. That's what's happening right now. Also, in my childhood days, there was one science subject till 5th standard. 5th or 6th standard, they didn't bifurcate it into physics, chemistry, and biology.
Correct. That's right.
So most of the students used to pass. Somebody was weak in physics but covered it by chemistry and biology. Somebody was weak in biology but covered it up with physics and chemistry. So overall, passing marks they got. Overall, they got good marks. Somebody who was good in all the three got some 90%. Somebody who was weak in one subject still got 60-70%, and it was fair enough. It was good. Now what happened? Now said, okay, let's create three subjects: physics, chemistry, biology. Now what happens? The same students who were good in studies failed in one subject. So the person who was weak in physics failed. The person who was weak in chemistry failed. The person who was biology, he failed. So now the rate of failure increased, and suddenly the good students became bad students. Got it? Now what happened? Fine. So they said, why don't you take tuitions? So the physics student who was weak in physics got physics tuition. Similarly, Till now, it's okay. Till now, it's okay. So out of 100 students, maybe 5 students needed physics tuition, 5 needed chemistry tuition, 5 needed biology tuitions. But 85 didn't need any tuitions, and they got good marks in all the subjects. Till now, it's still fine. It's still business, but fine. Acceptable limit. Now the school management says, what if the 85% fail in physics? And you say, no, they are good in physics. But you know what? They will come in contact with these physics failures. And this physics failures, see, just see how it relates to what we are listening today. You will come in contact with couriers who carry this virus. So these guys who are good in physics, I know they are good in physics, but they might come in contact with these people who are bad in physics, and then they will influence these people, and these people, 85 people, might get bad in physics. So I recommend that everyone should take tuition in physics.
Wow. Oh, that's a wonderful analogy.
Now all the 100 people are taking tuition in physics, irrespective they are good or bad. Now what's happening is, since they are overburdened with the tuition in physics, their chemistry is getting down the drain. Now they are not getting enough time to, they were good in chemistry, but now they don't have that much time. After school, they have to prepare, you have to go for the tuition. Now what happens? Now suddenly they are becoming weak in chemistry. Now since they are becoming weak in chemistry, now chemistry tuition is also suggested to them. Now these people are failing in biology also, because they now have no time. They are exhausted. Now biology is also tuition is being given to them. Now because they have got all this tuition, they are failing in maths. So maths tuition is also now mandatory. And ultimately what they find is they are even failing in English, because they have no time to study English. So ultimately what happens, whatever their curriculum is there, they all have tuitions for these. Now this person is becoming so weak that he's so confused because he doesn't know what to do. He's overburdened. Cut to analogy to human body. Most of the people have the strong immune system to fight all these. And it's not the immune system, it's not the antibodies. See, remember, it's not the antibodies which is important. It is the trigger button which is important, not the antibody. Let me give you another analogy. Before the alarm clocks were invented, alarm clocks may be 100 years old. I don't know, check it. I'm not very good in those data, but maybe 50, 60 years, 100 years old. You mean to say all along some 5,000 years of evolution, people never used to wake up in time because the alarm clock was not there? They relied on their internal body clock. For example, I do not use alarm clock. If I tell my body that I have to wake up at 3 o'clock, my body wakes up at 3 o'clock. That's the strength which I have developed, and that's called the trigger button.
Got it.
I do set my alarm clock, even if I have to wake up at 2 o'clock. I do set my alarm clock, but I'm surprised that I wake up and then I switch off the alarm. I've never happened that the alarm clock went on and then I woke up. It has never happened in my life. So I have actually, empowered my body to, create a routine. Now, when you inject an antibody, what are you doing? You're saying, why are you, having all this? Why are you under pressure? I am there to protect. So slowly and slowly, what you are trying to do is that trigger button now doesn't work. So your body, the same way, if you rely on alarm clocks, your body clock will say, okay, there's no need for me to, work for you. So like we forgot the use of tail, suddenly your body has forgotten. The moment the body get that antibody from outside and that body will not prepare, will not make it for them. Could I explain?
Yep.
So what's happening is what's happening is the more vaccinations you take, the more your trigger mechanism goes to sleep. Your subconscious mind goes to sleep. And now it has become so weak that it needs vaccination for every disease. Why is it that, see, fruits are nature's gift for fighting diseases. Doctors also recommend that whenever you are sick, eat fruits. Why didn't universe prepare this type of mango for smallpox, this banana for COVID, these grapes for this disease? So the universe should have also made some 200, 300 fruits, labeling them that this fruit is good for COVID, but this good for smallpox, for chickenpox, for dengue, for diphtheria, for cholera. For every disease, they say eat seasonal fruits. You eat papaya, it's good. You eat mango, it's good. So most of the fruits are good for every disease. Why? Because fruits do not produce antibodies. Fruits nourish the trigger mechanism.
So what you're
Does it make
saying
sense?
is, yeah, the viruses, which are the vaccines basically, which are being created, are for some space. Each vaccine is for one particular virus. So what you're saying is, because of that, multiple vaccines are being created, and people are being injected with probably 20, 30, 40 different vaccines. As we grow, we keep having vaccines in the hope. I would say, is it hope or is it more from a business perspective? We want to inject people with 50, 60 vaccines and say that it will take care of all the viruses, all the diseases that you can possibly get, right? I think that seems to be what you are trying to say, right?
In US, by the time you are age 18, you have almost had 100 shots of vaccinations. There is a flu vaccine which every US citizen has to get it every year. Why every year? Every year they have to get this shot. Why? So what that means? They have made it a business. Achha. My question to to these doctors is why a healthy person needs to take vaccination? You mean to say the moment a baby is born, you have declared that the baby doesn't have any strength? Universe created it with zero strength. Mother's milk is the best vaccination for the child.
Right.
That's it. But the challenge here is the mother herself is weak. The mother herself has taken so many toxic injections, not only during pregnancy, but all her life. So what you have actually done is, by taking vaccines, you have not only spoiled your present body, you have spoiled a generation. That's the point which we need to actually be afraid of. That's something which is, I'll say, something which we need to actually retrospect, that we are creating a weaker generation every next generation. So every next generation is become weaker and weaker. I only had one vaccination. I'm fit and fine. But the younger generations who are just being born, they need 20, 30, 40 vaccinations. So making them weaker. You're making a whole progeny weak.
Okay. So the vaccinations are making each generation is becoming weaker than the previous one, right?
Absolutely.
That's what is happening, right?
If you see today,
yep.
In my office, the average age is 30. Every now and then, somebody is sick. थोड़ा सा बारिश होता है, somebody is sick. मैं नहीं हूं. But somebody is sick. Why? Because the next generation is weak. And then what about the next generation of this generation? See, we say that genetics. We pass our genes. So you are passing weak genes. See, one, you are passing weak genes. And second, the moment that baby is born, you inject them. So now you are making it weaker than the weak gene which he or she had. So now this will pass on to the next progeny, even weaker genes, and by the time you will have, 400 or 500 vaccinations, and you are actually creating a a weak generation which cannot fight anything, and now you have become addict. And that's what the whole point is about.
Right.
Make people addicted to vaccinations or
Good.
medicines.
Yeah, I think there is the business aspect of it we will cover in our next episode. I think that that would be of interest to most of us. The other thing is, are there any long-term impacts of vaccination, Arun? I'm seeing there are growing concerns, especially after COVID, about links to heart issues and neurological problems, that even young people at 30, 40 people are suffering from heart attacks, etc. And a lot of people are saying that it is the after effect of the vaccines. What do you have to say on that?
Absolutely. See, as in my analogy, I had already said that a person who's taking, see, that is one aspect, that the more toxic injections or toxicity which you take inside, it will obviously have a long-term effect. But the first and foremost is this: how and when and where were these vaccines tested? My question is to you. Okay, you prepared a vaccine which is effective. How do you term it as effective? May I ask you? If I prepare a vaccine for COVID or XYZ disease, how do you ensure that this is safe and this is effective?
In fact, Arun, you stole the thunder, because that was one of my questions that I had listed. What is this term efficacy? How is it calculated?
Yeah, I'll get back to that. But my question you still haven't asked.
Okay.
The answer to your question lies in my question. Who certifies that this vaccine or this particular vaccine is effective and has got no long-term repercussions? And what do you mean by long-term repercussions? Layman's language, how will you do it?
Once the vaccine is administered to a person, you need to follow up, continuously monitor the person.
Monitor on whom? Monitor on whom?
On the person who was given the vaccination.
So you mean to say 2022 COVID was there, and 2023 we did research in 1 year. We did research on so many volunteers, and then we came out with the vaccine, or the whole world was the laboratory for the vaccinations. How can you test a long-term effect of a vaccine within 6 months?
No, that's not possible. Absolutely. Yeah.
And this vaccine was forced upon us. A vaccine which was never tested. In medical science, minimum 7 to 8 years, the effect of the vaccine has to be studied, and there has to be a placebo effect study. Now, what is a placebo effective study? And that is where your relative and absolute efficacy comes in. Placebo study is that two groups, where one group is not injected and exposed to the same conditions, and the other group is injected and exposed to the same conditions, and then you can study, okay, this is effective.
Right.
So first, when you make a vaccine, they test it on rabbits or rats. Now, rabbits and rats and all those birds and chimpanzees, even though they may be, living creatures, when compared to human beings, the evolution, they're far behind. We have willpower. Do these chimpanzees, rats, monkeys, bats, do they have willpower? Mm-hmm. Do they know meditation? Do they know what's immune system? Are they aware? Now you test these on these mute animals. I'll say you torture them and then come out with a research. Then you take bunch of volunteers, and then after doing that, you create a whole mandate that these vaccines are required for you, and you don't create a mandate, you enforce it. I did RTI on vaccination and mask.
Okay.
The reply which I got was vaccination is not mandatory and mask is not mandatory. Now, if you felt that it was saving us, why are you legally saving yourself?
Right.
Tell me. And if you said, if RTI says that, now this is India, I'm talking about India, I'm not talking about the world. If RTI says that mask is not compulsory or vaccination is not compulsory, then why was it forced? See, the strategy which they use is safeguard yourself legally by saying it is optional, but enforce it through the enforcement agencies. So
Right.
now what happens? The moment you challenge on court, they say, sorry, we never enforced. That was between the boss of the company and the employee. Now, whom do you blame? The employee or the boss? The boss says, my boss said it was mandatory. The boss says it was mandatory. But government never mandated it. The government never reinforced it. So why are they saving their skin? Because they also know that we cannot guarantee. So my question to all of you, or my question to to WHO and IMA is, if you are so sure that it has got 90% efficacy or 99% efficacy, what they say, why don't you come out and say, yes, it is necessary and make that, compulsory? Yeah, you have made compulsory that every red light you should stop. If I do RTI, should I stop at red light? They'll say yes.
Right.
Will they or will they not? Now, if stopping your car at red light is beneficial for us and law also says it's beneficial for us, why vaccinations are not in that list? If it is so, if that's the wonder, that's the medical wonder, if we have them, why is it not stated there? Because they know. So that's the way, that's the strategy. And what was the next question you said?
Yeah, if you can just very briefly explain this efficacy, how they calculate, because that will be of interest to our viewers.
Yeah. There is something called relative efficacy and absolute efficacy. And they actually fool us by stating the relative efficacy. Now, relative efficacy is like this. For example, if I get 40 marks in class and you get 80 marks in class, so the relative efficacy says that Vasudevan is 100% better than Arun.
Correct.
But absolute efficacy says that Arun is just 50% down than Vasu.
Okay.
So, if not taking vaccination, 10 people die. Fine. Out of, say, 1,000. Now, they are forgetting it was out of 10 people die out of 1,000 or 10,000. They'd say, okay, 10 people died because they didn't take vaccination, but only one person died after taking vaccination. So my vaccination is 90%, absolute efficacy is 90%.
Oh.
But relative efficacy is 10 people died out of 1,000 and 1 people died out of 1,000. So it's only 8 people you saved, 9 people you saved out of 1,000. So the absolute efficacy is only 0.009.
Okay. So they basically are fooling us.
Yes, they are fooling us. They are fooling us. But at what cost? The cost is out of 10 you saved 9. But what about the 990 whom you injected that vaccination? They are suffering the adverse effects of the vaccination. That's never documented. Number 2, if you have to sell any edible or any food item, you have to mention the content.
Right.
How much sugar, how much protein, how much this, how much that, especially sugar, which form of sugar. Why is the content of vaccination not told to us before injecting? Why do doctors don't tell us, I'm injecting you this vaccine, now these are the contents, kindly go through the content? They'll never see. They will educate you that don't buy a food packet unless until it doesn't have content. But what about vaccination? Do you know now do some research? Do you know every vaccine contains magnesium and mercury?
Okay.
And they say that it is under controlled limits. So it's okay. But let me tell you one thing. Control limits of what you eat and control limits of what is injected is different. When you inject something, if I inject 1 milligram of, say, maybe a magnesium or maybe mercury into your blood, it goes directly to you.
Right.
But if you eat, you will only absorb maybe 10% or 20% of that. Aluminium, magnesium, and your mercury, just go in. And that too, if you are injected periodically over a period of 18 years, how much of these toxic substances you have injected in your blood? Does anyone tell you? Who's going to educate people? So there are so many. If you go, I can go on speaking for another 10 hours on the the repercussions of taking vaccine. And let me tell you, I haven't taken any vaccine. The only vaccine which I got was when I was a child, and they injected me this smallpox wala. And at that time, I had no say. But from that till today, I am openly saying that I haven't taken COVID vaccination. And I have never contracted COVID.
Right.
I had tough time during those days when it was mandatory, but I didn't.
Great.
So you have the choice. Don't panic. The problem here is that most of the pharma companies have installed the fear in us that if you don't get vaccinated, you will get hepatitis B, you will get this, you will get that. And doctors are advising because they get their cuts. And you'll be surprised the amount of cuts there. Which is the best after sales the after sales, the doctors have got this association where they have lavish after sales parties and after sales conferences. One of my friends, he's a caterer for such events. He says that these events are very lavish. Sometimes they go abroad also. They have so much funds to spend on doctors. Where does the money come from?
Right.
It's a racket.
Absolutely. I think there is so much to talk. I do not know whether 2 episodes are going to be enough, but let's see. Arun, thank you very much. We'll discuss whether what the other things that you need to be covered, whether you want to do it over the next episode would be sufficient to cover that. Otherwise, we'll do 2 episodes after this. Okay. So thanks you, Arun, for your wonderful and thought-provoking insights. I'm sure it would make our viewers introspect and question what they've been given to understand about vaccines. Dear viewers, we are not here to tell you what to believe. We only want to remind you to question what you have been told. The science, the ethics, and the business behind vaccines raise questions that deserve honest answers. Don't believe what you have been told. Don't reject it either. Pause, reflect, and evaluate, and then decide for yourself. Thank you very much for tuning in. We would love to have your thoughts. Please post your comments, and if you've got value, do like and share with people who could benefit from this episode, and consider subscribing to the channel, right? In part 2,
I'll give it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just giving thought for all the so-called vegans. There's a big movement of vegans. Just search how the culture for vaccines are developed, and then tell me how much vegan you are. Just do that research before the next episode.
Yep, I think that's
how the culture for any vaccination, what is the base used for creating cultures? Just do some research, and then we'll discuss.
Sure.
The moral and ethical issues.
Yeah. I mean, that next one is going to be the moral and ethical way. Probably the business angle, probably we'll have to do it in the next episode. We'll see how it goes. Okay. And also, guys, if you have some specific comments or you want us to cover something, please feel free to do that. Thank you very much for joining, and looking forward to the next episode. Don't miss that. Thank you very much, Arun. Bye-bye.
Thank you.